So let's start with where we left off yesterday. Before we begin, let us respectfully pay homage to our noble friend and teacher, Buddhothpado Aryan Mahanse, Theruvan Saranai Aryan Mahanse. With deep gratitude and humility, we reflect on the rare blessings of encountering a true spiritual friend who points not outward but inward toward the realization of truth within ourselves. Theruvan Saranai, and may you live long. So yesterday we were talking about how this so-called mind and how thought by thought, this expansive experience of a vast universe and this inclusive self is created. We kind of touch base on that. There's no thing called the past. Whatever you think about the past, whatever you talk about the past, whatever um, proof that may, or rather that whatever the things that may seem like proofs of the past, or whatever the things that may seem like future proofs of the future, they all exist in this moment only. If you think about something that happened in the past, something that happened just yesterday, you will be thinking about it right now, sitting in this chair in on which you're listening to this sermon from. If you want to think about what you have to do tomorrow, whatever your responsibilities may be, whatever your plans may be for tomorrow, you will be thinking about them while sitting in the same chair. And do not take this in the form of knowledge, but it's if you really try to see it within you, we try to emphasize the importance of not just listening, but not just accepting or rejecting, but doing that internal investigation within you while you listen to these sermons. So if you do that investigation within you, you will see the so-called past and the so-called future collapses down just to a thought in this moment. And whether we talk about the history of you as an individual, where you were born, how you were born, who you were born to, and the whole story you have learned in school, memorized, and everything about the past of the human race, how we evolved as a human species, the universe, where you live, where do you live, the name, you will name a city, you will give us an address as to where you live. You will tell us you're tuning in from this particular country, UK, India, US, wherever it may be. You will tell us you are part of this planet, part of this solar system, wherever. However, you will answer that question. If you pay attention to your experience right now, that is a bunch of thoughts that is arisen in your awareness right now. You will tell us, I'm Harry, David, I'm Emily, or whoever it is, and I'm an artist, I am an activist, I'm a teacher, doctor. If there's someone passing by who has no idea about who you are, in that situation, what you're thinking about yourself is, if you can see the big picture, it's just a thought that's arisen in this moment in your awareness. If prior to this moment, prior to this investigation, these kinds of thoughts did not even come alive, come into existence. Prior to this moment, your previous thought was about a past and a future. So these thoughts, when we think about them, when we think them into existence, they come alive. Yet we have an idea that these thoughts exist somewhere. These thoughts, whatever the meaning that's been attributed to these words with which we think, they exist somewhere, which is also a thought. Whatever you can think about yourself, whatever you can think about this so called world, whatever you think about the past, future, your surroundings, your family, your environment, anything cannot be thought about without thoughts. And they are just that, they are just merely thoughts. When you say, I am a doctor, or I am an engineer, or I am a teacher, I am a whatever blank, whatever the profession, or whoever, those words do not contain the meaning that you're trying to convey in those meanings, those words or those thoughts themselves. A thought that says doctor, does it contain a doctor? A thought that says elephant, does it contain an elephant? We talked about signpost, a signpost that, a board, billboard, whatever you want to call it, that's letting us know that you're entering New York or New Delhi or wherever it is that signpost that that says New York, New York itself. The signpost is not the actual thing itself. So are thoughts. The thought that says I'm a doctor is not carrying that meaning. It's just a signpost. So thoughts essentially don't have any meaning. Hold that thought for a while, for a bit. And if you pay attention to, okay, now the present collapses, I'm sorry, the past collapses, the future collapses, now we are on to the present moment. Right now, the story you have about yourself, I am so and so sitting in this house located in a certain address, at a certain address, and I'm in the living area, I'm sitting on the sofa, or I'm in the bedroom, sitting in the bedroom. If you close your eyes, there's, what do you see? Some black, some darkness, however you want to call it. But that idea where you are, isn't it in the form of a thought again? So even this present moment, whatever our our version of our reality itself is a bunch of thoughts. And if you look around, you will see a wall, a TV, a dresser, whatever it is, a pillow. When did you, let's take the example of a wall. If you look at the wall, if you don't, when you're alone, you don't keep telling yourself it's a wall, it's a wall. You don't utter that word aloud, but in silence, in within the thought, you know that it is a wall. There's a certain kind of an awareness. And you can close your eyes, you can see that same wall in the eye of the mind with the exact same color. And in that same mental image, you can know the name of that image is a wall. There's a certain roughness to it. There's a certain solidity to it. There's a certain temperature to it. Mm, if you touch it the way it feels under the skin of your finger, you have an idea as to how it would feel. You have an idea that you have smelled as a kid, probably. You must have smelled walls enough many times now, you know. It doesn't necessarily have a smell, or it probably has this scent of fresh paint if it's painted recently. While your eyes, while your eyes being closed, you can these thoughts could be thought about the wall you saw when your eyes were closed. I mean, open when your eyes were open. But if you open your eyes again and look at the wall, if a person who speaks Chinese come and look at the same wall, will he have the same name for it while he's not trying to pronounce the name for it out loud? He will use a Chinese word for it, or an Indian would use a word in his or her language. But all three of you are looking at the same so-called world. The visual experience is the same. We can't say same, but similar. There's possibly no way to know if the Chinese person is seeing the same more or less what you're saying, or what the Indian person is saying. If the Chinese person is wearing spectacles, he would see it differently. Um, if you have you're colorblind, then you will see it differently. So the common thing we have amongst the three people is that there's a common acceptance of the meaning of the word, but not even the word which gives rise to the thought. So is the wall really out there, or is it a mental construct? The Chinese person's thought about the so-called wall would be his internal experience, because he's not uttering the word, he's not pronouncing the word. Even if he did, it will be a different word which carries a different thought underlying it. Same goes for the Indian person and you. So there's no wall out there. There's something out there with some colors, with probably similar colors, with similar textures, similar smell, but we can't exactly be sure. All three of you all see the same exact wall, smell the same exact wall, have the same exact idea about the texture, or um, what it's called. We are momentarily sharing a seemingly common experience, but we do not have the same experience. Same goes with anything and everything. Your mom is different to my mom. Whatever the memories you have about your mother, whatever the memories I have about my mother, what my mother looks like, smells like, how her skin feels when I touch her, all that is different to the mental image you have. But the common acceptance is everyone has a mother. But your world and my world are different. But the common acceptance is we live in the same world. Yet we have not seen the world we live in. We have seen bunch of pictures of the blue planet taken by NASA, and we have a mental image that creates the mental image, part of the mental image as to how our planet looks from a distance. That and the name of the planet Earth, which is also a sound. When we say thought, word, they're essentially sounds because when you were young, when you were just beginning to learn the language at the age of 1 or 1.5 or 2 or whatever, depending on when you started learning the language, if we compare the period prior to that, you didn't even know your own name. For the people around you, yes, there was a baby born to this lady. She just newly delivered a baby. But within the experience of, if we consider the experience of the newborn baby, what he or she has is whatever he or she sees, whatever he um, hears, smells, tastes, and touches, the five sensory experience. Why you cannot, if I ask you, do you remember being fed by your mother when you were 1 month old? You will say no. How about 3 months old? Do you remember who came to visit you when you were three months old? Do you remember when you first started turning around on the bed? You said you don't. Do you remember when you first started rolling around or when you took your first step? You say you wouldn't. If your parents have taken a video or a picture, then you have kind of somebody else's experience woven into your experience, which you call, yes, I remember there's a picture, but that's not your own experience. That's an adopted experience much later when the mind was evolved, mind was matured. So the first memories of any child are usually during kindergarten or uh, when you were introduced to labels, these sounds, these, when you started, when parents introduce you to labels such as mother, father, ball, dog, doll. So before that, you have you don't have any memories of your childhood. Why? Because for it to be a memory, for it for you to be able to, for us to be able to talk about a memory, we need words, we need thoughts. Without thoughts, you have a very raw sensory experience that cannot be talked about without the help of the words. So initially, most often than not, babies are introduced to the labels, the label, the mother, mom, mummy, mama, whatever it is. So the baby is being taken care of by the mother, which the other people around the baby knows, but the baby has no idea. This image, in if we kind of focus our attention on how the baby's experience is evolved, there's a raw sensory experience and there's a familiar image. The baby doesn't know to call this image a mother yet. So this familiar image, the others know, the mother comes to feed the baby, to clean the baby, to pamper the baby, whatever she does. In the experience of the baby, the familiar image comes and goes, comes and goes. Baby has no idea where this image goes. Just from time to time it appears. This image, which is experienced through the eyes, with time, the mother herself calls herself mother, mummy, ma, or in our language we call amma. So this is done enough many times. Every time this image appears into the baby's experience, in the awareness of the baby, this image is given a sound. The mother, the mother introduces herself to the baby, but in the experience of the baby, baby has no idea. Baby just sees an image and hears a sound. Mother, mother, mother. We know a sound is a vibration. It has a frequency, and this is said enough many times. And with time, we and the image, and any image we know we have colors based on science. We know we have colors because they're in the uh, visible range of light, which has bunch of different frequencies. Red has a different frequency to yellow. Brown has a different frequency. Black has a different frequency. So these are again vibrations, different forms of vibration. Sound is a vibration, image is a vibration. So with time, these get entangled, the sound and the image. And with it comes a child when the mother feeds him or her, when there are close interactions, we know the babies lick the mothers, smell the mothers. So the whole raw sensory experience of the so-called mother is experienced. Now it's been given a name, a label, the mother, in terms of sound. So all these inputs of the sensory experience, the image, sound, smell, taste, touch, predominantly the image and the sound get entangled to create the thought. That is, a thought is nothing but the entanglement of image, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Do not take it in the form of the knowledge. Just inquire, isn't it so? If you think about, right, when I say mother right now, you in your awareness, you have an image of your mother, which has a bunch of colors. Just like the first day when the thought of the mother is created in the baby's awareness, the word, the sound mother can bring into the awareness of you, the mental image of the mother, right now, even today, after many, many years. It's been altered, it's been evolved, that mental image has been evolved based on whatever the interactions you had with your mother throughout the time. But even today, when I say the mother, a mental image is created. The sound is capable of bringing into the awareness a mental image that is related to that sound, that is entangled with that sound. The mother. It it is it consists of an image of the mothers, of the so-called mother. It consists of how, even right now, you could, if you zoom in on that thought, you can almost smell the scent of your mother. You can zoom in on it and almost feel how your mother's skin feels like when you touch her. You can almost hear the sound of her voice. And prior to this moment, prior to the moment we started talking about the mother, your mother, you had no idea. You probably didn't even think about your mother for the entire day. You were probably thinking about, you know, what you have to do today, what's left of to be accomplished in your to-do list. So the thought of the mother that was called into existence in the awareness right now has an image, has a sound, has a smell, taste, and touch. That is nothing but the thought. A thought is a coming together of the five sensory inputs to create the sixth one, which is the thought. And not just that, when you started thinking about the thought, it felt like mother really exists somewhere. Even though she's not here, she's somewhere. She's in the address wherever she lives. It could be she's in the same city as you. It could be that she's in the same state as you, same country as you. It could be that she lives in a different country. But there's an idea that she lives in that particular place where she lives, usually simultaneously. This is what thoughts does. The thoughts that are created, that are coming together of images, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches, gives us the idea not only they are real, they also exist. They also exist. But that idea that they exist is also a thought. For an example, you have an idea the president of your respective country exists. You're right now somewhere, even though you don't have an idea as to where they are. They exist, they are alive. Let's say you have an idea as to one of your favorite cousins or a cousin that you don't like exists somewhere. While you're sitting in this chair, that's also another thought. Let's say your cousin was suffering from some, a cancer or whatever. He wanted to keep it to himself. He was a very private person. He's a very private person, so he didn't share it with anybody. You haven't talked to this cousin in some time now, and he passed away this morning. And now you're listening to this sermon. Nobody, they just wanted it to be a private thing, or you were not in good terms with the cousin, so they didn't bother to communicate that to you. Okay, let's say now it's been 2 days since he passed away. Somebody else calls you and tells you so and so passed away. If you're upset about it, you're upset about it because the death of him came alive right now to you in the form of sound, which is any sound, any word carries the underlying thought underneath it. So, with thoughts, now you're grieving his loss, let's say, but actually, he passed away 2 days ago. So, the suffering or sadness or these emotions, they have nothing to do with the real incidents, real occurrences of these events. If they if those incidents take place in your awareness only, they become part of your experience. Whatever is not part of your experience. Any we can talk about any experience, we can explain any experience this way, not just we can explain any experience this way. That is the reality about any incident. It could be you hear about some social injustice that's been happening in some part of the world for decades, and you're now learning about it. There's like hatred, there's like confusion, there's like frustration after listening to it, after hearing about it. But before, where was it? Did it not happen? It has been happening for decades before you learned about it. So these thoughts are the ones that bring emotions, not in the past, not in the future, in this moment in time. Let's say your father passed away some time ago. Now you think about it now. You have probably, you know, overcome the grief. You have probably processed your emotions. Now, since we started talking about it, now you remember it. That whatever the emotion you have about it, it could be, he was a good person. He did so much for me, and I'm so grateful. Or I couldn't be there for him as much as I wanted. Or he was not a good person. He was abusive, or whatever the story. In terms of thought, you will not even open your mouth to talk about it, but it comes alive in this moment. The suffering, the happiness, the sadness, whatever emotions are brought upon with these thoughts, they come alive in this moment. So, whatever the past is a thought in this moment, the future is a thought in this moment. Even in this moment, whatever the thoughts you have, they always do not arise independently. They have, at a prior moment, they've been introduced to the system in terms of sounds mostly, and there's an experience related to it, a raw sensory, five sensory experience that got entangled with those sounds. So everything we see, everything we think about, everything we use in this so-called world has a name. Can you think of anything that there is no name? There's a name, meaning there's a sound, and sound attached to the whole experience, the raw five sensory experience. A name always. comes with a sound. The sound is the sensory input of the ear. Image is the sensory input of the eyes. Smell is the sensory input of the nose. The taste is the sensory input of the tongue, and the touch is the sensory input of the skin. So we have not experienced this so-called world without these five senses ever. Our experience is limited to these five senses. I would like to take a moment to bring into the attention that whatever we discuss here, we would really invite you to listen to it without relating to something you have heard, some other kinds of teachings that you have previously heard, without relating it to them, because we are um, trying to show a different angle here. A lot of things that we talk about here may sound like something you have previously heard of, but the important aspect here is the angle and getting deeper and deeper into the angle that is shown here. That way you do not lose the message. For an example, if somebody's you have never seen a ship and somebody's trying to explain about a ship to you, and someone will say, "That's a oh really? What is a ship? I have never seen. Can you explain it to me?" Ship is a big thing. It's like made up of wood, made up of wood, and it has like a base and uh like a depth. Oh, you mean like a basin? Yeah, kind of like a basin, but different. Now you start thinking about the basin. Now you have a mental image about the basin. Now you're thinking you're listening to something similar to a basin, and it has like engines. It has a whole system, probably a steam engine, boilers, or like a boiler, like a tea boiler, like a soup boiler. Yeah, kind of like that. Now you're thinking about a basin and a soup boiler, and it has rooms and for people to stay. The sailors, um, and it has a deck. Or you mean like a deck of a house, like rooms in a house? Now you're thinking of a basin and a house. Now you've lost the complete message. So that's why we are inviting you to listen to this without relating or referring to other similar things that you've heard of, because that's going to dilute the message. Um, if you can give us that humble opportunity to explain this until you see properly where this is headed, you will begin to get the image, the idea that we're trying to convey here. It's not so much an idea, it's initially conveyed as an idea, but there's a deeper message um, that we're trying to communicate here. So, coming back to what we are trying to say, um, the past and the future is collapsed. Even in this moment, if you look around the walls, whatever you're surrounded by, all that is, it has like a previous label that's been introduced to talk about them, to introduce you to them. As a child, most labels we learn as children. As we grow, initially we learn mother, father, dad, more, that kind of very simple kind of labels, simple kind of images, square, triangle. As we grow older, we learn. So now we have thoughts about these things: square, triangle, mother, father, the ball, the teacher, doctor, nurse. And as we grow older, we have more complex kind of thoughts that even that don't even have a physical presence at all. In the case of the mother, father, we at least can um, point our fingers and show you some image. But as we grow old, we learn about uh, democracy, about marriage, about a company that's been incorporated, about um, socialism, about capitalism, about um, about gaslighting, about uh, manipulation. Most of the things we learn in our adult life, we can't even give them a proper, seemingly physical image to them. We have, it's kind of a created, when I say democracy, it's kind of a created image based on what ideas you have about democracy. There's like some mental image, but it's not something that's been given to you because there's some physical thing that could be shown as democracy. The in mental image of democracy, when I say democracy, it comes from whatever the ideas you have about democracy, how they in a democracy, how they treat people, what kind of decision making is involved. These are all mental images created from some basic form of seemingly physical image. So when I say democracy, there's some mental image. Now I say socialism, there's some mental image. Uh, Even though you can't eat, smell, taste, there are, there are certain ideas as to, these are not things that you can touch. That idea is there in that mental image, embedded in that mental image. There are ideas as to democracy cannot be smelled. It's not something that you smell to get an understanding about a democracy. That idea is also in that mental image. So either there's some sort of sensory input in this mental image, or there's an idea as to there cannot be a sensory input related to these mental images that tells us these things exist, that tells us democracy exists. The mental image we have about the democracy tells us the democracy exists. So these sensory inputs and thoughts and words and signposts, they're kind of entangled. This is the mind. When we open our eyes and look at the wall in front of us, and we are aware it is a wall, the image we see right now, we have an idea that it is very solid, it's right in front of me. But the label, the name that's given to it comes from seemingly within. So when we call it a wall, the image of the wall seems to be external, but the name that we use to name it is seemingly internal. It's a seemingly internal experience. Without uttering the word wall, we can say within our minds, wall, 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 enough many times. That seems like an internal experience. So does the wall belong to the external world, or the world belong to the internal world? Or is it an entanglement among the two? This is our human experience. It's entangled. Even though we believe that We think that oh, there's a wall out there, there's a TV out there, there's a pillow out there, my mother is out there. It's not an external 100% external experience. Neither it is 100% internal experience. You and your friend are hanging out, let's say in a mall, and your mother walks by, and your friend has never seen your mother. Without calling her my mother, or without telling your friend that is my mother, within you, the image of the so-called mother creates an experience within you in terms of thought. That's my mother. That's a seemingly internal experience, whereas the image of the so-called mother is seemingly an external experience, entangled. Is the mother outside or is the mother inside? This is the dilemma. Have we ever thought about our experience in this manner, or have we ever tried to understand and realize how the human experience is created in this manner? So now the lines kind of blend, the lines kind of shatter. Let's go back to the experience of the child again, where the earliest memories of a child are created. So the familiar image of the mother, and the mother asks the baby to call her mother, 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 say ma, The baby initially blabbers for a long time without being able to pronounce the word mother properly or mom properly. It takes a long time for the image, which is a vibration, the sound, which is a vibration, to entangle. If we extend our understanding, you will see the smell, the taste, the touch, they are also vibrations. Just how the nerve endings detect the touch, how the taste buds detect the taste, how the uh, olfactory senses detect the smell. Um, Sometimes, in terms of smell, the modern science hasn't um, clearly understood how smell works. They think only certain elements have a smell, certain don't. And there's a new theory about understanding smell as vibrations. But we're telling you they're all vibrations. They're different manifestations of vibrations, different ranges of frequency, detected differently through the five senses. Whatever you don't understand, or whatever you do not accept or on board with us, smell, taste, touch as vibrations, you don't have to accept right away. You will see eventually whatever you understand, whatever you agree on. Let's go with that to extend our understanding and realization to the areas that we do not understand at this point in time. So, but at this point, we are telling all the sensory inputs are different manifestations of vibrations entangled to create a variation of these vibrations called the mind. There is no existing entity called the mind. If you're seeing right now, you can see a TV, that is your mind in this moment. It may sound more real than thinking about a TV, because the mental image is a mental image, and it doesn't feel like a three-dimensional solid object that's right in front of you, fair enough, but uh, it's the same experience. The mental image of the of a TV and the real looking at the real TV. It's the same mind. If you hear something right now, you're listening to it with the mind. When a cat meows, we usually, if you're a person who are not familiar with cats, you don't understand a thing the cat is trying to say. It's just a sound. If you are a cat person, you being them with them for a while, you understand certain meows. You know what it's trying to communicate. Then certain you probably will not understand all the sounds it makes, but at least a couple of different versions of meows. You know, it means that. Now that means in your awareness, the thoughts are created connecting those sounds to language, to meaning. Just like for the baby, when it's been said, the mother, mom, it doesn't make sense. The baby blindly, not it's not doing off actually the baby also. This is how the mind is created. This is the mechanism in which minds work. Any mind would work the same way. The mechanism of any mind, whether it's a doctor or whether you're blue collar or white collar, whether you're coming from elite kind of background or from a lower middle class, or whether you don't have any income, your whatever your situation may be, the mind of any person works the same according to the same mechanism. If we do not understand the mechanism in which the mind works, that is why actually we are not able to understand the thoughts of another person. All this time we are talking about emotional intelligence, understanding people, being compassionate, trying to be in the shoes of another person and what they're going through. But they're all kind of knowledge based uh, things that we do with which are really actually baseless. We have some direction, we have come closer in certain ways, but we haven't really properly understood how you think, how the other person thinks, because we do not understand the mechanism in which the mind works. So the child is given the image and the sound, the mother, and then the next thing, the baby is introduced to another label, father, another familiar image, father, father, father. The smell, taste, touch, everything gets entangled. Now baby has another thought, father, ball, the shape of the ball, the color of the ball. Even the baby can't name the color of the ball, the baby has an idea as to what color it would be. Baby knows, a ball of a different color is given to him. Baby knows the difference, that it's different to the familiar ball. Babies lick balls, touch balls, kick balls, learn all about balls using these raw sensory experience. Dog, whatever the basic labels. When visitors come to see this baby, the mother, the father, they tell the baby, show your mother, baby, and the baby points at the mother. Show your father, baby, the baby points at the father. Show your bag, baby, show your ball, baby. So the baby points at these things, meaning now with this, around this time, this entanglement has happened, and uh, parents usually tell you, show us your ball, my ball, say my ball, my mother, my father. And this system, the mind, the mechanism in which mind works, slowly turn on takes a turn on its own. It is now capable of slowly thinking on its own. If that is, there's this initial thought, if you can kind of revisit how your mind started this journey to your earliest memories, you will see this thought that baby has. If that is my mother, if that is my father, if that is my bag, my mother, my father, my bag, all my, all related to my. There should be a person, there should be a me. If there's something that is mine, there should be a me to whom these things belong to. Oh, that should be me, the one who sees, one who looks around, turns his head to look around, one who hears these sounds, one who smells these things, one who touches, who's able to touch and feel these things. That should be me. And not only that, around this time, the parents train a baby to tell his name. Baby, what's your name? I'm David, Paul, whatever it is. And the baby, now this thinking system, the thoughts that are generated now on its own, if that is my mother, if that is my father, if that is my bag, there should be a me. That me is whatever the name they ask me to repeat. David, I am David. One who sees, one who hears, one who smells, one who tastes, one who touches, one who feels. So this is the self-identifying view. In Pali, we say Sakkaya Ditti. This initial self-identifying view slowly evolves into something much more expansive, much more vast, much more selfish. We call this the ego, but a lot of people use the word ego in the context. If someone is so proud or too proud, we will say he or she has a lot of ego, egoistic or whatever. But ego is whatever the thoughts that create a border around the so called self to differentiate this so called self from everything else. Why we call it a so called self? It was non existent, it was a misidentification based on it's a thought deduced based on logic, which is the system in which the mind works, the mechanism in which the mind works. But there hasn't been a self ever. So from that day onwards, now the baby has a different view in which he sees the world. And as he grows, the people come. Now the baby is talking a little bit more. People come to him and ask, "Baby, what do you want to do when you grow up? Do you want to be a doctor?" And the baby has no idea who a doctor is. Who's a doctor? And they will show you something on TV with a stethoscope. You know, when he gets sick the next time, when he goes to the doctor, the mother will show this is a doctor. Say hi to the doctor. He's going to take care of you. He gives medicine. So these ideas, all these thoughts, all these sounds entangled with now the baby slowly and surely his so-called world is now being filled with different kinds of labels. Whatever the visuals are kind of entangled, whatever the words that are given to him based on the language. Two different babies talking two different language could could have two different internal thought systems. But whatever they see, smell, taste, kind of are similar, closely similar, but they're not 100% similar. We cannot say that with 100% certainty because we are limited by the capabilities of the eyes. If you're colorblind, if you have certain kind of, if you're nearsighted, farsighted, our vision, you and I will have different visions, different images for the same seemingly existing image. So same with the sound. Some people wear hearing aids, some people are hearing impaired. So, they will hear the seemingly same kind of thing in different ways, differently, slightly differently, maybe drastically differently. So our experience seems like it's the same experience that everyone lives in a world where Donald Trump is the president of America and President Putin is the president of Russia. And, there's China, there's India, there's UK, there's United States. We think everybody live in the same world, but our individual experience, my individual experience is different to yours, totally different, based on where you're coming from, who your parents are, what kind of labels and environments you're exposed to, what kind of value system you're exposed to. So we are thinking we are living in the same world, but we are not. So I think that's a fine point for us to conclude our discussion today. Teruvan Saranai, everyone, for joining in today. And Teruvan Saranai, Dr. Ravi.